Greetings, YouTube. Greetings. Um, there are a couple reasons why I make YouTube videos, a couple of targets. Let me say it like that. There are a couple of targets that I try to go for in my YouTube videos. Today, I'm going to be doing two. Hopefully, I will upload them back to back. I may spread it out. I don't know, but um, one perspective has kind of taken dominance just because of where we are in our culture, and I just don't want I believe God's put that on my heart. I don't want God's people to be misled by what's going on. When I talk about His people, I'm talking about the ecclesia, the body of Christ. You got to make that clear these days. um, you know, is it possible to be saved and deceived? Yes, yes, for a season anyway. Um, I am just one of those people that believes that a good portion of the time, this is where I'm at in my understanding of it. A good portion of the time, if you're dealing with someone who's truly saved, they're not going to stay deceived. They're not going to stay deceived. It may be something that happens for a season. So, in any event, what's taken precedence here lately, and which may frustrate people you know subscribe to my channel for one reason. It's kind of like becoming my friend on Facebook. Some people become friends on my Facebook for one reason, and then when I go off into other subjects, they think that I've left the other subject alone. I'm just God has made me and built me to be diverse. I talk about diverse subjects, but they all fall under one umbrella, really. If people pay attention, they fall under one umbrella, and that is uh, to expose deception, to expose darkness, and for people to understand the times. Um, so for someone that has that as part of their assignment, not their calling, not their calling. Calling and an assignment are two different things. An assignment is is what you are doing, for lack of a better way of saying it, inside of your calling. Um, let me give you an example. Ezekiel and Daniel were both prophets. They were both prophets. They both had the same calling, but they did not have the same assignment. If you pay attention to what they actually did within their calling, they did not have the same assignment. Uh, Another example, John the Baptist was a prophet. You grow up hearing John the Baptist, and because of modern times, you associate it with the denomination. But John was a prophet. He was called the Baptist because he was a baptizer. Um, and so, um, praise God, he was a prophet, but so was Ezekiel. But Ezekiel obviously did not have the same assignment um, that John the Baptist had. So hopefully you see what I'm saying. In what I'm saying. Um, and so what's taking precedence here lately on my YouTube videos is I've been talking a lot about what's going on in world affairs, trying to just pull the covers off so people can see what's actually going on. Um, there's smoke and mirrors. There's even smoke and mirrors in amongst people that are um, quote unquote exposing things. Um, for a few years, people were obsessing, and I'm not saying that none of this needs to be covered, but they were obsessing over Jay Z and Beyonce and the Illuminati, and quote unquote, and most of the people that fell into that fad, and that's what it was. It was a fad. Most people that fell into that fad um, um, don't understand what the Illuminati actually is. Uh, and let me be clear: I'm not saying the Illuminati is a fad, but I am saying that what people were making the Illuminati to be was a fad. The strangest thing is when all that was getting exposed, more people went into Freemasonry. From what I noticed, and some people would say, "Well, see there, that shows the effectiveness of that kind of ministry." And no, 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 no. They didn't go into it because of people preaching against it per se. I don't believe they went into it because they saw that their idols were involved, and they felt like their idols were involved in it. That's the reason I'm convinced that they did it. And and we have a problem here in America that doesn't get addressed like it really needs to with idolatry. And see, I didn't even plan to go this way, but I don't, I don't mind. I feel like I'm supposed to be going this way. We have a problem with idolatry, and it's not recognized like it needs to be because idolatry doesn't look like it did in America anyway, back in ancient times. But let's just keep it 100. We call these people in Hollywood, we call them idols. That's what we call them. We call them stars, and a star in the ancient world, a star was a god. And to even um, to even bring it home more, we roll out the red carpet for them. That's symbolic because that was something in ancient times that they did for gods. I would have more It's been a long time since I covered that part of the subject, but so I would have a little bit more context. But I'm just going from off the top of my head right now. But but the basic analysis is that is something that they did for gods. I have a whole Facebook post I did on that. But anyway, um, it's an old one. So we have a problem with idolatry. We have a problem with idolatry in America, and but that that whole time period a few years ago served as a smokescreen, and I didn't recognize it, and I'm trying not to go down a rabbit hole here because I want to really cover this. Um, it took people down. What it did is it played down something, a real entity that exists. Like, I don't encourage everybody to do this because everybody can't do it. But if you survey occult literature, it is no secret in that sense that there is an Illuminati, um, and it's complex because usually when people are talking about the Illuminati, certain people they're talking about May 1st, 1776, Adam Weishaupt, um, Bavaria, Germany. You know, but while that is very significant, um, Illuminati itself is deeper than May 1st, 1776. It actually goes farther back than that. It goes back. Illuminism itself goes back thousands of years. You know, uh, when Ignatius Loyola first named the Jesuits, he called them the Alumbratos, the holders of the light. Um, there was another group called the Rashania, I believe is what they were called, earlier before then, I believe. And they had pretty much kind of the same concept. Illuminism, if we just break it down, would be, and I believe Albert Mackey even said this in his Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, would be the an adept of the mystery schools. This would be someone who has been illuminated, and when we actually when uh, deep researchers are talking about the Illuminati, people that have really been in it for a minute, people like Bill Cooper, the late Bill Cooper, Fritz Springmeier, different ones like that. When they are talking about the Illuminati, that's what they're talking about. They're not talking about simply about May 1st, 1776. They're talking about an elite, basically, I'll say it like this, like an elite body of adepts, of initiates, of high initiates. Um, that because when you dig, what you find out is the whole system is one system. Although there are different schools, there's Rosicrucians, there's Freemasons, there's the Skull and Bones, but at the very tip top, um, it's the adepts, it's the initiated, the high initiates that are controlling things. Basically, that's just another video. That's another video, um, and it's an important thing to understand. Um, it's unfortunate we live in a time that when you talk like that, people just want to yell conspiracy theory. Uh, some of them are Christians, which is very troubling. Um, but that distracted people from from actually getting. And I used to, I know this because I would talk to some people that would have interest in what it was, and when I start talking to them about the real meat and potatoes of what was actually going on, like if I went into the banking system and stuff like, some of them would hear it out and would actually dig and do their due diligence. But others, it was interesting. They would have this glassy look in their. I heard someone else talk about it. He described it and said they would have this glassy look in their eye. And I'm repeating that. And I'll admit I'm basically repeating what he said because I experienced it. I experienced, and I'm using his wording, so I'm not repeating it mindlessly, but I'm using his wording because I experienced it. I experienced that glassy look he was talking about, where it's like, it's this look that almost said, we really don't care. This is just the latest fad, so you know, uh, I just need to know about the Illuminati, you know, you know, and so now, you know, it's just like we go from one fad to another. So now woke is what's in, and woke is so woke is it's demonic. At the end of the day, that's what it is. It's demonic. Um, I'm not saying it's not. It's a completely irredeemable word, but it's demonic. Um, because people that are woke are would take some things like I was talking about earlier, and say, well, nothing was wrong with it. Nothing's wrong with the knowledge. All it just need to be. It's just the way they was using it. Man, esoteric knowledge is satanic. Why do you have to hide something that's righteous? Why do you have to be operate under the cover of darkness if you're doing something that's righteous? Jesus talked about stuff like that. There's a scripture where Jesus says, "Men love darkness rather than light because their deeds are evil." Have we forgot about that? Have we forgot about that? But anyway, many of us. I'm not saying all of us. But um, anyway, um, so that kind of thing served as a distraction. I mean, the interesting thing is there were some people that really did wake up, but there are some people that when everything shifted, they went right back to sleep. I mean, it's amazing to look at some people now. Like they're so asleep, and it's just not funny. I mean, with this whole COVID thing, many of them are just are off in the corner with CNN on and just looking at the TV like a bunch of zombies. It's really sad to look at. It's really sad to look at. Really sad. You know. And if you counter anything and you counter anything that's going on, these are people. Some of them will be the first to call you a conspiracy theorist. And a few years ago, they were the ones talking about some of this other stuff. So it gets into the actual topic I wanted to talk about here, and here I am, 15 minutes into what I was into my video, and I'm just now actually naming what I'm going to talk about. Um, I'm going to name it "Response to the Stimuli." Response to the stimuli. This may just that alone. I think when people look at it, they're going to be like, "Huh?" Well, what I'm referring to is mind control. That's what I'm referring to. I'm referring to conditioning, to brainwashing, basically. That's what I'm referring to. You know, some may look at mind control and brainwashing and separate them. Ultimately, I don't. I don't, because you're dealing with. I mean, I don't do that. It may be a segment. You may need to kind of segment brainwashing off in a certain side, but anyway, that's what I'm going to be dealing with, and you have to understand that when you look at modern society, a huge part of the problem, a huge part of the reason where we are, is because of brainwashing. It's because of brainwashing. And it's not just the mainstream media that's doing it. Mainstream media is like a supplement to the brainwashing we received when we were younger in school. That's right. The schools brainwashed us. The schools brainwashed us, and they've been a brainwashing mechanism for quite some time. Um, Heavily, starting in the 30s, um, when that's about the time. That's the time when the tax exempt foundations, and I have a whole lot. There's going to be more. I have a lot on this channel. Well, not a whole lot, but I have a number of things, a number of videos on this channel that deal with tax exempt foundations. And if you haven't watched them, you need to, because um, that is how, that is what's been used to change the country. It's still what's being used. When you see Black Lives Matter and groups like that, they're being funded by tax exempt foundations like the Open Society of George Soros, the Rockefeller Foundation. Uh, this is not something people need to ignore. Now, see, again, this is meat and potatoes. Symbols and all that, all those other things. I'm not saying those aren't important, but when you start getting to how they're doing it, see, this is not just guesswork. Like, it can be documented how they're doing what they're doing. Understand that, and I pray people that listen to this video get to that part. Those that are into conspiracy theorizing, understand you don't have to theorize. You do not have to theorize. There's meat and potatoes that shows what they've done. And people usually ask me for. I've had someone ask me for books. I'm about to name some books for what I'm talking about right now. Foundations: Their Power and Influence by Renee Wormser. Foundations: Their Power and Influence by Renee Wormser. The Tax Exempt Foundation by, his last name is begins with an M, McClenny or something like that. I know about that one. I'm trying to get that one. I don't have that one. Uh, you know, but I do know that it's worth getting. If you go online and look up the actual investigation of the Tax Exempt Foundation. Now, Renee Wormser was on this investigation. That's why he wrote the book. He wanted people to know the findings of the Reese Committee. But the Reese Committee investigation to investigate tax exempt foundations, that is online. I mean, now, here lately, you have to dig to find it, but it is online, and you can find that. And it's like 1,000 some odd pages, or close to it. But you can find that investigation. Uh, I'm trying to get it all together because I want everybody to be able to understand it. Eustace Mullins did a book called The World Order, and he has a whole section on the tax exempt foundations. Um, Eustace Mullins is controversial to some, but the bottom line is when it comes to information, would I recommend all of his books? No. I'm just going to be honest. But there are books that he did right that I would recommend, and I would recommend with absolutely no problem um, at all. Not any real problems. The World Order, I would suggest people get that and read the section in there that he did on the tax exempt foundations. Um, David Allen Rivera did a book called Final Warning: A History of the New World Order, where he talks about tax exempt foundations. The foundations are major. There's a paper someone wrote. It's online, and I would recommend you look for it. Tax exempt foundations and their influence on society. It's like 190 some pages. It's important to understand. It's important to understand. Um, and then if you're listening to me on here, go to the videos that I've shared on tax exempt foundations, and there's information there. There's other books. There's another book. There are other books, but I haven't really surveyed them totally yet to where I'm comfortable sharing them. But but again, if you just go through, um, if you go through the videos on here, you'll see enough information. You have enough information. I mean, I have one, two, three, four. I got a few on here that deal with it, and there's more that I'm going to upload that deal with it. Um, there is actually someone actually did a video that has Eustace Mullins's where they read that chapter, so I'm probably going to upload that to my channel. Um, and so I realize this is lengthy, but again, responding to the stimuli. All right, they funded radicals to get involved with the education system. People like John Dewey, uh, different others. Hey, there's actually a document called "Dare the Schools Build a New Social Order," where they talked about um, where they laid out the person laid out a plan to use the educational system to George Counts is his name, I believe, to have a planned society. A planned society is the opposite of a free market society. I understand that. So he was basically talking about some form of a socialized system, if you will, or collectivized system. But anyway, and the document, you can get that document online. I have it. I have it. But anyway, um, much of what we have in our school system is patterned. Um, John Dewey had a heavy influence, but also patterned off of B.F. Skinner and Pavlov. Pavlov. And B.F. Skinner, of course, was big on behaviorism. And there's this thing he did. He's a psychologist, but he was, I believe, it was like some sort of psychiatrist or psychologist, um, where he talked about operant conditioning. Operant conditioning. And the best way to understand this is to think about an animal. You know, I've been trying to really break this down to where I can understand it, to where I can relate it. So the best I have right now is to share it like this, because I want people to understand what's happened. It's basically the best way to understand it is to understand this. Is where you train people. Where you train, it's kind of like, uh, you know, it's like you have a dog or a rat. Matter of fact, B.F. Skinner in his experiments, I think, used rats. I'm not sure. I believe he did. Where, you know, Um, you do something, and the animal responds to the stimuli. Hope you all are getting what I'm saying. They respond to the stimuli. It's not necessarily that it's an animal. It's not necessarily that you're training it to think critically, but you're training it. You're not empowering it, rather, to think critically. You're training it. You're training the animal to, when I do this, you do this. Now, that puts it as simple as possible, I believe. And so, if you pay attention to some of the things that have been introduced into the school system, and some you won't know it's been introduced because it's all you've known. But if you do some history, you'll find out, man. Okay, some of these things, some of these things that have came into the school system, you know what I'm saying, are new. You know, just not new enough to where I would have recognized them. But anyway, um, again, you know, it's kind of like I do this, now you do this, meaning, uh, you know, I hold the hot dog out, you sit. That's the, you know what that is? It goes back to the name of the video. That's the animal responding to the stimuli. Okay. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because of signs. See, I talk about mind control and brainwashing and all that a lot on my page because I see signs of it. First of all, I know it's in the school system because it can be shown. It can be shown. There are people that have blown the whistle, like Charlotte Iserby and different other ones. Um, but I see signs of it in society. What do I mean? Well, whenever there's a hot topic and the media is going crazy with their propaganda, if you notice, they create an environment to where this is it and this is all it is. And if you question it, if you question it, this is what you are, and this is what's going on, and that's what's going on, and you know, and you either on this side or you evil, you know, or you this and you that, and it's interesting. It's interesting because when I converse with people, and see, part of really being like this, being I hate to wear this word out because of what it's kind of become, but part of being a truther is a huge part of it is thinking for yourself, taking responsibility, beginning to actually not just take people's word, reading for yourself, learning what things mean, learning how an economy actually works, learning just not just taking things that you were spoon fed and just saying, "Oh, this is what it is," you know. Like black, I mean, I hate to say it, I love our people, but you know, like a lot of our people, like a lot of black folk, you know, you vote Democrat because Democrats support black people. You know, like how do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know that? Since we've done it, what has changed among our people all these years? And there's even signs now that nothing is going to even advance if Joe Biden gets in. There is a whole video that's been released of him talking to civil rights leaders and talking to them down. I mean, he literally, there's one section where he said, you know, in so many, by 2045 or something like this, you know, this is going to be a minority white nation. It means you all are going to have to learn to work with the Latinos, which outnumbered y'all now. He said something along those lines. How many of our people still gonna be down with him? Because, you know, he's a Democrat, and a Democrat for the black man, the Democrat for the poor. How you know that? How do you know that? But anyway, Anyway, but it's interesting when I get into conversations with people. And I don't mean to be disrespectful at all. I don't. I just this is a lot of this stuff. If I tick you off, for lack of a better way of saying it, I don't like using that term. Scratch it. I'm sorry. I just don't like using it. If I make you angry, I hope I anger you enough to go behind me to try to debunk what I'm saying, in the sense of actually searching objectively in history for information. Because when you do, what you'll find out is, man, a lot of what that brother is saying, and I'm saying a lot because initially you may not want to say what I'm saying is the truth. And I'm not saying it because it's me. Please don't walk away with that. I'm not saying I can be wrong. There's some things I can be wrong about. I'm telling you now that I'm explaining even operant conditioning the best way I can right now. Um, but from what I do have, I do know I have the basics. I feel like I do have the basics of it right. And so, that would be the animal. Like, I was going back to the animal. It would be the animal responding to stimuli. So when you look at uh, society, I see that kind of thing playing out in society. And I went 30 minutes, and I'm about to wrap this up. I see it playing out in society. Well, how do you see it playing out in society? When I get into conversations with people, and these are usually people that tell me that, that they're thinking for themselves and everything, but all you hear is media, mainstream media talking points. Ironically, when you hear them talk, you hear CNN, you hear Roland Martin and all these other people. I know Roland is not CNN. I don't think. You hear Don Lemon, you hear MSNBC, you hear Fox, you know, you hear these different um, parts of reality that have been pre-scripted for us, and you don't hear people usually thinking outside of it. And then when you come to them, like when you deal with a said topic, here's proof of what I'm talking about. When you deal with a said topic, here's what happens to me when I talk to people sometimes, and when I'm dealing with the people like that. Here's what happens. We'll talk about a certain subject. We could be talking about nationalism versus internationalism. We could be talking about, and their response on cue will be the response, will be what they've been conditioned to respond. And the way you'll know that that's all they have and they can't fire anything else outside of that is if you're someone, I'm not boasting again, but if you're someone like me who will come with things that they've never heard before, they'll just be lost. They won't know what to say. And if they're a certain type of people, they'll just start, they'll start trying to lightweight insult you. They'll come with ad hominem type stuff. Of course, their favorite one, and of course I'll strip them of that, is they'll say conspiracy theorist. And I'll let them know, you calling me a conspiracy theorist adds nothing and has added nothing to this conversation. It means nothing. At worst, at best, it is an ad hominem attack. But you have not refuted what I said. And it usually doesn't go too much further. After that, or they're forced, for lack of a better way of saying it, to actually engaging in an actual discussion. you know. But so the response, again, what the reason why I compare it to what I said is because they'll make these responses on cue that they've been conditioned to respond. They've been conditioned, and one of the signs also to me is, to them it'll be obvious. Oh, this is obvious. You should know this. Why should I know it? Why? Why is it right? When you start questioning beyond the surface, Even when you do this to yourself, even when you do this to yourself, when you start requesting beyond the surface, uh, you start seeing where people really are. And if you're honest with yourself and do it with yourself, you'll see where you really are. You'll be like, man, I hold this, but do I know this the way I need to? It don't mean it don't watch this. It don't always mean you're wrong. It just may mean that you need to know it on a deep level. Like if you are getting into a debate, and debate, you know, debate is no, it's not, it's normal. I mean, it happens. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to be in discussion with people, it happens. Now, it's only wrong when it becomes unhealthy and fruitless and sinful, you know. But disagreeing and discussing it and reasoning with each other, you know, that happens in life. It happens in the Bible. Paul did it, you know. And I'm saying that for Christians that feel like that debate should not happen at all, you know. Uh, that's there's so many reasons that's dangerous, to be honest. But anyway, um, but if you don't, if you examine your presuppositions and you see that you don't have much to say beyond the surface, then you really need to really think your presuppositions out. You need to make sure they're right, first of all, but then you need to examine, you know, you need to see if they're to the truth, if they're aligned with the truth and are the truth. Then you need to really reason and really develop an in-depth understanding of your position. Know it thoroughly. And if you know it thoroughly, you know, then you're not likely to experience people refuting you, you know, on it. I mean, you may run into someone that may challenge you at some point, and you may have to dig deeper. But but if you know things just on the surface, then you really have to question, like, okay, at this point in my life, because everybody that I'm talking to on here is grown, and you have to ask yourself, at this point in my life, how am I holding a position, a whole position, and I don't know it thoroughly, but I'm holding it. I'm holding it. You know, that's a problem. That's a problem. Now, now, some would say, well, you talk, well, I mean, would you apply that to Jesus? Well, you know, Jesus is a person. And the interesting thing about salvation is you come into relationship with him before knowing. There's an old thing called, the theologians use a saying, you know, faith seeking understanding. The beautiful thing about that is that what they say, what they're saying is you don't just stop at faith. Now, when it comes to salvation, you know, yes, faith alone, I get it. Uh, uh, Grace through faith alone, uh, you know, I get that. But what I'm talking about is after you're saved. And I'm in the book because Peter commands us to get knowledge. That's one of the things he commands us to do. Um, Solomon talks about getting knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. The Bible doesn't encourage stupidity. It does not encourage stupidity. You know, some of our cultural religious type of understanding, you know, condemns knowledge. You know, a lot of modern Christianity, cultural Christianity, I won't say Christianity itself, a lot of modern is anti-intellectual. But that's not, you know, the Bible's not anti-intellectual. Modern cultural Christianity is. Certain segments of it. It's very, I would say modern cultural Christianity is to a great degree anti-intellectual. But that's why we got to get back to the Bible, a lot of us. But hopefully you got the whole breakdown of what I was saying. I know I said more than I've said in a little while on here. Um, but that's what I experience. I experience talking to people, and you know, again, it's interesting to watch. And these people, it's like they don't, and you know, many of them are not going to see themselves anyway until they wake up from from a lot of these things, and they begin to see what's actually happening, you know. And so, um, for now, that's all I really have to say. Um, Hope everybody got what they were supposed to get from this. And this time I did name some books. So trust me, you won't be sorry. Um, I don't believe you'll be sorry at all that you when you seek those things out. Blessings to you.